The Orbital Defense Station Sentinel-7 detected the anomaly at exactly 3:47 Earth Standard Time. Commander Sarah Chen stared at the readings, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic display's soft blue glow. The object had appeared just beyond Luna's orbit, defying every known law of physics with its sudden emergence from what appeared to be a localized fold in spacetime. "Contact Admiral Reynolds," she ordered, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation, "and get me a full spectrum analysis of that signature." The massive vessel that emerged from the spatial distortion dwarfed anything humanity had ever constructed. Its surface gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence, geometric patterns shifting across its hull like liquid mercury. As Chen watched, smaller craft began to deploy from its hangar bays, their movements precise and coordinated. Within hours, the alien vessel had broadcast its first message to Earth in perfect English. "We are the diplomatic corps of the galactic hegemony. We come in peace and fellowship." Admiral David Reynolds stood before the United Earth Council 12 hours later, his weathered face grave as he delivered his assessment. "They're lying," he stated bluntly, ignoring the gasps from several council members. "Our quantum sensors detected active weapon systems during their entire approach. Their diplomatic vessel carries enough firepower to glass half a continent." Councillor Zhang leaned forward, her expression skeptical. "And you're certain of this, Admiral? We cannot risk offending what could be our first peaceful contact with an advanced civilization." Reynolds activated a holographic display, showing detailed scans of the alien vessel. "Look at their design philosophy. Every curve, every angle is optimized for combat. Those decorative elements, their weapon ports, carefully disguised. This isn't a diplomatic mission. It's a reconnaissance in force." The hegemony's representatives arrived at the council chamber the next day, their humanoid forms almost perfect except for the subtle shimmer of their skin and the too perfect symmetry of their features. Their leader, who called himself Ambassador Nexus, smiled with practiced warmth as he presented their offer. "The hegemony welcomes humanity into its embrace," Nexus announced, his voice melodious and compelling. "We offer you advancement, protection, and guidance. Your species has such potential." But Reynolds and Chen had already set their counter-operation in motion. While the aliens focused on the public diplomatic display, hidden sensors recorded every detail of their technology. Quantum computers analyzed their communications, searching for hidden patterns and messages. Deep beneath the Mariana Trench, in a facility known only to a handful of humans, Director Elena Santos received the data stream. Her team of engineers and scientists worked frantically, comparing the alien technology to their own secret developments. After 20 years of preparing for this moment, humanity wasn't as helpless as the hegemony assumed. "They're following the standard pattern," Santos reported to Reynolds through a quantum-encrypted channel. "Every civilization they've welcomed has been systematically stripped of military capability and reduced to client-state status. But they've never encountered a species that was ready for them." The hegemony's true intentions became clear 3 days into the negotiations. Their demands for security cooperation and technological oversight were thinly veiled attempts at control. Each proposal would have placed Earth under direct hegemony supervision. When Councillor Zhang questioned these requirements, Nexus's perfect smile never wavered. "Surely you understand the need for stability. The galaxy is a dangerous place for developing civilizations. We merely wish to ensure your safe development." But humanity had a surprise waiting. For 2 decades, they had been preparing for this moment, building defenses and weapons that combined their own innovations with reverse-engineered technology from crashed alien scouts. The hegemony thought they were dealing with primitive newcomers to the galactic stage. They were about to learn how dangerous that assumption could be. As Nexus delivered his final ultimatum, accept hegemony oversight or face isolation, Admiral Reynolds initiated Operation Prometheus. Across Earth, hidden facilities powered up, and a new kind of weapon prepared to show the galaxy that humanity would never accept chains, no matter how gilded they might be. 2 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean floor, Director Elena Santos stood before a window that shouldn't exist. Through quantum-reinforced transparent aluminum, she watched teams of engineers make final adjustments to humanity's greatest achievement, and possibly its last hope. The Prometheus didn't look like any other ship in existence. Where the Hegemony's vessels were smooth and elegant, this ship was angular and aggressive, its hull composed of overlapping plates that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. At nearly 3 kilometers in length, it represented 20 years of human innovation, determination, and carefully hidden preparation. Final systems check complete, Dr. Yuki Tanaka reported, her augmented reality display projecting streams of data across her field of vision. The quantum core is stable, and the adaptive defense matrix is responding exactly as designed. She smiled slightly. Better than designed, actually. The exposure to hegemony tech has given our eyes some new ideas. The ship's artificial intelligence, ARIA, was perhaps their greatest achievement. Unlike the rigid, predictable AIs used by the hegemony, ARIA had been designed to think creatively, to learn and adapt in real time. More importantly, she had been raised alongside her human creators, developing a deep understanding of human ingenuity and determination. Director, ARIA's holographic avatar materialized nearby, taking the form of a young woman composed of shifting lines of light. I've completed analysis of the hegemony's communication patterns. They're mobilizing their fleet. 17 capital ships have already entered the Sol system. Santos nodded grimly. As expected, the hegemony wasn't planning to wait for humanity's response to their ultimatum. They never did. Historical records stolen from their databases showed the same pattern repeated dozens of times. A show of diplomatic contact followed by overwhelming military force. Status of Operation Darkstar? Santos asked, referring to their counterintelligence initiative. The hegemony remains unaware of our subsurface facilities, ARIA reported. Their quantum sensors are being successfully spoofed by our deflection array. They believe they're dealing with a pre-spacefaring civilization with limited technological capabilities. In the ship's massive engineering bay, Chief Engineer Marcus Wong supervised the integration of their latest breakthrough. The quantum displacement drive wasn't just an engine. It was a fundamental reimagining of how ships could move through space. Where traditional FTL drives punched through space, the QDD slipped between the quantum fabric of reality itself. Power fluctuation in Section 7, one of his engineers called out. Wong moved quickly to the indicated panel, his cybernetic eye displaying real-time power flows. Compensating, he muttered, his augmented fingers dancing across the controls. There, that's got it. Above them, through kilometers of ocean and rock, Ambassador Nexus was delivering what he thought was a masterful performance before the Earth Council. His threats were expertly veiled behind diplomatic language, his promises of protection masking the reality of subjugation. But in the council chamber, Admiral Reynolds watched the alien with cold satisfaction. Every word, every gesture was being analyzed by ARIA, building a comprehensive profile of hegemony tactical doctrine and psychological weaknesses. The more they revealed, the better prepared humanity would be. All stations report ready. Commander Chen's voice came through Santos's quantum communicator. She had been chosen as Prometheus's first captain, her combination of tactical brilliance and adaptable thinking making her perfect for the role. We can launch within 30 minutes of receiving the order. Santos turned to Dr. Tanaka. And our surprise package. The scientist's grin was fierce. The quantum mimic system is online. Once activated, it will replicate any attack used against us, learning and improving upon enemy weapons in real time. The hegemony thinks their technology is generations ahead of ours. They're about to learn that humanity doesn't play by their rules. The Prometheus represented everything humanity had learned since discovering they weren't alone in the galaxy. Its hull contained alloys that hadn't existed 2 decades ago. Its weapons combined principles of quantum mechanics with human intuition in ways the hegemony's rigid thinking would never have conceived. But its greatest weapon was its crew. Humans who had trained their entire lives for this moment, supported by an AI that understood not just tactics, but human creativity and determination. Director, AI interrupted, her expression serious. The hegemony fleet is moving into attack formation. Their energy signatures indicate weapon charging sequences. They're not waiting for an answer to their ultimatum. Santos straightened, her decision made. Signal Admiral Reynolds. Tell him Operation Prometheus is go. She turned to face her team, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt. The hegemony thinks they're here to decide humanity's fate. Time to show them how wrong they are. Throughout the massive facility, alerts sounded. Crews rushed to their stations as 20 years of preparation finally came to fruition. The Prometheus hummed with power, its quantum core spinning up to full capacity. In less than an hour, the galaxy would learn that humanity wasn't just another species to be conquered and controlled. They were about to become the hegemony's worst nightmare. Commander Sarah Chen felt the Prometheus come alive around her as the massive vessel rose from its underwater berth. Quantum fields dispersed the ocean above them, creating a bubble of absolute void through which the ship ascended. On her command chair's displays, she watched the hegemony fleet's formation with practiced eyes. 17 capital ships, Araya reported, her holographic form steady beside Chen. Standard hegemony assault pattern. They're positioning for orbital bombardment. Their mistake, Chen replied, her fingers dancing across tactical displays. They've never had to fight a prepared opponent before. Battle stations, all hands. The Prometheus broke the ocean's surface like a leviathan from Earth's myths, water cascading from its dark hull in silver sheets. But the hegemony fleet didn't immediately react. Their sensors, calibrated to detect traditional engine signatures, barely registered the vessel's emergence. In high orbit, Ambassador Nexus watched the situation unfold from his flagship's command center. Begin the demonstration, he ordered, his perfect features showing a hint of satisfaction. Show these primitives the price of defiance. The hegemony ships opened fire, their energy weapons painting Earth's sky with brilliant lines of destruction. But their targets, military bases, defense installations, and government centers, remained untouched. Quantum deflector fields, hidden in Earth's atmosphere, scattered their attacks into harmless light. Impossible, Nexus whispered, watching his fleet's opening salvo fail. Then his sensors screamed warnings as the Prometheus finally allowed itself to be detected. Target analysis complete, Araya announced on the Prometheus's bridge. Their weapons are based on 7th-generation quantum cascade technology. Predictable. Mimetic defense systems have already adapted. Chen nodded, a grim smile forming. Show them what we've learned. Targeting pattern Alpha 7. Fire when ready. The Prometheus's response wasn't the crude missile barrage the hegemony expected from a primitive species. Instead, concentrated beams of quantum-entangled particles struck 3 hegemony vessels simultaneously. The attacks bypassed their shields completely. After all, they were using modified versions of the hegemony's own weapon signatures. Direct hits, Tactical Officer Raj Patel reported, his augmented eyes processing the battle data. Their adaptive shields are attempting to compensate, but our mimetic systems are evolving faster than their defenses. In the engineering bay, Marcus Wong watched power flows with satisfaction as his quantum displacement drive performed exactly as designed. The Prometheus didn't just move through space. It shifted between quantum states, appearing to teleport across short distances. The hegemony's targeting systems, designed to predict traditional flight paths, couldn't maintain weapon locks. Their formation is breaking, Araya reported, detecting multiple emergency jumps charging. 3 vessels have sustained critical damage. Ambassador Nexus's voice crackled across all frequencies, his diplomatic facade cracking. This is impossible. Your species cannot have this level of technology. You cannot. Cannot what? Chen interrupted, allowing her voice to be broadcast across the battlefield. cannot think beyond your rigid patterns, cannot innovate beyond your approved designs. She paused for effect. Cannot refuse your grand protection. The Prometheus demonstrated exactly what humanity could do. Its quantum mimic systems had analyzed and improved upon every weapon fired at Earth, turning the hegemony's own technology against them. Where they fired single beams, the Prometheus responded with interlaced attacks that struck from multiple quantum states simultaneously. Multiple hegemony vessels attempting to retreat, Paddle reported. Their command ship is charging its main weapon array. As expected, Chen replied calmly. Araya, initiate Operation Mirror. The hegemony flagship's massive primary weapon began to glow, preparing to unleash destruction on a scale meant to shatter planets. But as the energy built to critical levels, something unprecedented happened. The Prometheus's quantum mimic system didn't just copy the weapon's signature, it reversed it. The resulting backflow of energy cascaded through the hegemony vessel's systems, overwhelming their safeguards. Nexus barely had time to realize what was happening before his mighty flagship was reduced to a drifting hulk, its systems completely neutralized. Enemy fleet is in full retreat, Araya announced. 13 vessels have jumped to FTL. The remaining 4, including the flagship, are disabled. Chen stood from her command chair, addressing the stunned hegemony forces still monitoring their frequencies. This was a demonstration, she declared. 1 ship against 17. Remember this day. Remember what happened when you thought to make humanity bow. In the aftermath of the battle, as recovery teams secured the disabled hegemony vessels, Director Santos received a priority message from Admiral Reynolds. The quantum encryption couldn't hide the satisfaction in his voice. The Hegemony Council is calling for emergency consultations, he reported. Apparently, they've never lost a first contact engagement before. They don't know how to handle it. Santos watched through her screens as the Prometheus settled into a defensive orbit, its dark hull now bearing the scars of its first battle. They'll be back, she said quietly, with more ships, new weapons. Of course they will, Reynolds replied. But now they know. Humanity isn't just another species to be conquered. We're something they've never faced before. In her holographic form, Araya smiled. They thought their technology made them invincible. They forgot that true advancement comes from innovation, not iteration. Humanity has just changed the rules of their game. The battle was over, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The hegemony had ruled the galaxy through technological superiority and careful control of advancement. Now they faced a species that had taken their own weapons and improved upon them in ways their rigid thinking couldn't comprehend. The age of hegemony dominance was ending. The era of human innovation had begun. 3 weeks after humanity's decisive victory in Earth orbit, the hegemony's response arrived. Not with the overwhelming force everyone expected, but with a message that shocked the galaxy. They wanted to negotiate. Admiral Reynolds stood in the Prometheus's newly completed tactical center, studying the holographic display of known hegemony space. Beside him, Commander Chen and Director Santos watched as AIA highlighted potential strategic targets. They're stalling, Reynolds said, his eyes narrowing at the patrol patterns of hegemony fleets. Their diplomatic overtures are meant to buy time while they analyze our technology and develop countermeasures. Agreed, Chen replied, gesturing to a section of the map. Our quantum sensors have detected increased activity at their primary research facilities. They're rushing to understand how we reverse their weapons. Director Santos smiled slightly. Let them try. They're still thinking in linear terms, trying to counter specific technologies. They haven't grasped that our real advantage isn't in our weapons. It's in how we think. Araya's holographic form nodded. The hegemony's development process is inherently hierarchical. Every advancement must be approved through multiple layers of bureaucracy. By the time they develop a countermeasure, we'll have moved 3 steps ahead. Then it's time for Phase 2, Reynolds declared. Operation Lightbringer. Throughout the Prometheus, crews prepared for their most ambitious mission yet. The quantum displacement drive had been refined, allowing for even more precise spatial manipulation. Engineers had worked around the clock, incorporating insights gained from the first battle into their systems. In the ship's massive engineering bay, Marcus Wong supervised the installation of their latest innovation. The Quantum Ghost Protocol is online, he reported through his neural link. We can now project false sensor readings across entire star systems. The plan was audacious. While the hegemony expected humanity to stay defensive, protecting Earth from their inevitable counterattack, the Prometheus would take the fight to them, but not in the way they anticipated. Signal the resistance cells, Reynolds ordered. Over the past 3 weeks, they had made contact with other species under hegemony control, finding many eager to break free from their protectors. The Prometheus departed Earth under complete quantum stealth, its presence masked even from the advanced sensor networks the hegemony had hastily deployed. Their first target wasn't a military installation or fleet base, but something far more valuable: the hegemony's primary data archive. Approaching Nexus Prime, Chen announced as they dropped out of quantum space near the hegemony's administrative hub. Their orbital defense grid remains inactive. Our ghost protocols are holding. The massive archive complex floated in synchronous orbit, its crystalline structures housing the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 worlds. More importantly, it contained the control protocols for the hegemony's entire defense network. Begin Operation Lightbringer, Reynolds commanded. AI, you have the con. The AI's consciousness expanded through the ship's systems, coordinating their attack with microsecond precision. The Prometheus didn't just assault the archive, it infiltrated it. Quantum information taps, developed from reversed hegemony technology, began extracting data at unprecedented rates. But they weren't just stealing information. With each extracted bit of data, they left something behind: freedom. Buried deep in the hegemony's control systems, AI planted the seeds of revolution. Access codes were subtly altered. Defense protocols were rewritten. The rigid hierarchy that had kept the hegemony in power began to crack. They've detected us, Paddle reported from Tactical. Multiple defensive platforms powering up. Right on schedule, Chen replied calmly. Execute Pattern Omega. The Prometheus seemed to shatter into dozens of identical vessels, each one generating perfect sensor signatures. The hegemony's automated defenses, unable to determine which ship was real, began firing wildly at the Phantom fleet. Archive infiltration complete, Araya announced, implementing final phase. Throughout hegemony space, something unprecedented began to happen. The carefully controlled flow of information became a flood. Every suppressed innovation, every restricted technology, every piece of knowledge the hegemony had hoarded was suddenly accessible to all their subject worlds. Message from Earth, Santos reported, her eyes gleaming. The resistance cells are reporting widespread system failures in hegemony control networks. Their grip is slipping. Reynolds watched as the tactical display showed chaos spreading across hegemony space. Ships stopped responding to Central Command. Defense systems switched allegiance. 1,000 worlds that had been kept deliberately dependent suddenly found themselves free to act. They thought technology was power, Chen observed, watching the uprising unfold. They never understood that knowledge, freely shared, is the greatest weapon of all. The Prometheus slipped away from Nexus Prime as the first ships of the Liberation arrived. Vessels from a dozen different species, all using technology the hegemony had forbidden them to develop. The carefully maintained order of 10,000 years was unraveling in a single day. Incoming transmission, Araya announced. The Hegemony High Council is requesting immediate cessation of hostilities. They're offering unconditional negotiations. Reynolds shared a look with his colleagues. Send our response. The time for negotiations was before you threatened Earth. Now you get to watch as every species you've suppressed learns what real freedom means. The Prometheus turned toward its next target, its dark hull reflecting the light of distant stars. The hegemony had built their power on controlled advancement and restricted knowledge. Humanity had just introduced something they had never planned for: chaos. And in that chaos, a new order would emerge, one built on innovation, cooperation, and the unshakable human spirit of freedom. 6 months after Operation Lightbringer, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Grand Hall of the newly established Galactic Conclave buzzed with activity as representatives from hundreds of formerly suppressed species gathered to shape their collective future. At the center of it all stood the humans who had sparked this revolution. Commander Sarah Chen watched from the Prometheus's observation deck as ships from across the galaxy moved through the space around Earth. The planet had become a symbol of resistance and innovation, drawing scientists, engineers, and dreamers from 1,000 worlds. Another delegation arriving from the Centauri worlds, Araya reported, her holographic form, geometric patterns shifting with excitement. Their quantum physicists are eager to collaborate on the next generation of displacement drive technology. The fall of the hegemony had unleashed a wave of technological advancement unlike anything the galaxy had seen in millennia. Without artificial restrictions, species began sharing innovations, combining different approaches to science and engineering in ways the rigid hegemony would never have allowed. In the Prometheus's engineering bay, Marcus Wong worked alongside aliens from dozens of worlds, their different perspectives leading to breakthroughs that would have been impossible in isolation. The Arcturian crystalline computing architecture, he explained to a group of young engineers, when combined with our quantum processing principles, increases efficiency by orders of magnitude. Director Santos stood before the conclave assembly, presenting the final report on the hegemony's dissolution. The age of enforced stagnation is over, she declared to the gathered representatives. We've established the Open Innovation Protocol, ensuring that no single power can ever again hoard technological advancement for control. The former hegemony worlds, their leadership structure in shambles, had been integrated into the new galactic community. Their technology, once used to suppress advancement, now formed the foundation for unprecedented cooperation. We've confirmed the last hegemony holdout has surrendered, Admiral Reynolds reported during the daily briefing. Their defensive fleet was disabled by their own former subject worlds. Poetic justice in a way. But not everything had been smooth sailing. The power vacuum left by the hegemony's fall had created its own challenges. Pirates, warlords, and opportunists had tried to carve out their own empires in the chaos. The Prometheus and its growing fleet of sister ships had been busy maintaining order during the transition. The Orion Defense Network is fully operational, Chen announced, studying the tactical displays. Combined fleets from 15 different species, all sharing technology and tactics. The hegemony would have nightmares about this level of cooperation. Araya's algorithms had evolved far beyond their original parameters, learning from the vast influx of alien scientific knowledge. I've detected an interesting pattern, she reported one day. Species that were most heavily suppressed by the hegemony are now showing the highest rates of innovation. It's as if centuries of forced stagnation created a pressure cooker of creativity. In the newly established Quantum Sciences Academy, human and alien scientists work together to unlock the mysteries of the universe. The rigid categories and restrictions of hegemony science gave way to a more fluid, intuitive approach that combined multiple perspectives. They never understood, Dr. Tanaka explained to a class of mixed-species students, that true advancement comes from diversity of thought. The hegemony sought uniformity, but the universe thrives on variety. The Prometheus itself had evolved, incorporating innovations from a dozen worlds. Its hull now featured Arcturian living metal that could repair itself. Its quantum core had been enhanced with Rigelian energy-focusing crystals. Every improvement was shared freely with other ships and species, creating a rapid cycle of advancement. We've detected something interesting in the galactic core, Araya announced during a routine patrol. Energy signatures unlike anything in our combined database. Under the old system, this discovery would have been classified and restricted. And now, Chen asked, already knowing the answer. I've already shared the data with every scientific institution in the conclave. Teams are forming to investigate. This is how discovery should work. The galaxy was changing in other ways too. Trade routes that had been restricted under hegemony control now flowed freely. Cultural exchange flourished as species shared not just technology but art, music, and philosophy. Earth had become a hub of this new renaissance, its adaptable nature making it perfect for cross-species collaboration. Admiral Reynolds stood with Director Santos on the observation deck of the new conclave headquarters, watching ships from across the galaxy come and go. "Did you ever think," he asked, "when we were building the Prometheus in secret, that it would lead to this?" Santos smiled, remembering those tense years of preparation. "We hoped to defend Earth. Instead, we ended up liberating the galaxy." She paused, watching a group of alien children tour the Prometheus, their eyes wide with wonder. "But the real victory isn't in what we destroyed. It's in what we're building," Reynolds finished. The quantum communication network lit up with a new discovery from a joint research team in the Vega sector. Another breakthrough, another step forward for all species. The age of enforced order had given way to creative chaos, and from that chaos, something beautiful was emerging. Humanity had not just survived their trial by fire. They had transformed the very nature of galactic civilization. The future was no longer a carefully controlled progression, but an open frontier of endless possibility. And in that frontier, the human spirit of innovation and determination had found its true home. Aria's voice echoed through the Prometheus's halls, summing up the transformation. The hegemony sought to prevent change. Humanity taught the galaxy to embrace it. That will be our lasting legacy. And in the vast expanse of space, countless worlds looked toward Earth, not as primitives to be controlled, but as the species that had shown them how to break their chains and reach for the stars on their own terms.